All right, the little button on the little box on the computer tells me we are live. I'm going to trust that thing and hope that that is true. I see some of you in the chat. We have Ty Ranger. What is up, buddy? Let me get where I can highlight these things. Ty says, what's up, all you winners? All right, let's make sure I'm coming through loud and clear. Anyone still listening, give me a thumbs up. We have a very special guest tonight. We got a fun little project we're going to be working on, inking up. Tonight we are doing an ink along with Ben Soto and his character from Halloween Head Comics, their icon, the Halloween Head character, sort of like a jack-o'-lantern. We're starting the Halloween season off right, and we're going to be doing an ink along. So what is an ink along? An ink along means that you can join us. The image that we have here is, let's see, it's hard to see at an angle there. The image we have here is located down below in the link in the description. You can print it up and join us, or you can download it and put it into your favorite digital app. We're just here to encourage inking as a craft, as a medium that you can use to relax and to get a little better as an artist. And we like everyone to join in from all levels. So let's see, I'm going to tweet out that we are live. There we go. Try to get a few more eyes over here before we get going. And we'll also be talking to Ben about his project here in just a couple minutes. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and bring the man of the hour out. He is Ben Soto, and you won't be able to see him, but he's going to be joining us tonight. Here he is, Mr. Ben Soto.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Say, it's good to have you here. Some of you don't know that Ben has been brought onto the Hammerella team. Hammerella is the book that I'm working on. It's tied to the Gods and Gears universe. It comes out from Alterna Comics. Ben is an amazing colorist on his own. I should be having him do all the colors, but since I already started the project, he's just come along to help out with the flats and such. But it's already been such a benefit, and I can't wait to work with him more. So yeah, thank you for being here, Ben.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Thanks for allowing me to help you out with Hammerella. I mean, that's a fun project. It's looking great.
Yeah. No, well, you know, we mentioned that just because you're part of the team, and I always do a little backdoor marketing on my own stuff. But we're really here to talk about Halloween Head Comics and ink up a piece for that. We've got Simon7 showing up. He's saying, "Hey, Ben Soto." We have the Barbarian Sasquatch ink along. My Sasquatch hands are too large and barbaric for such things, I am afraid. That's too bad, but I'd love to see you try, because like I said, it's not about how well you ink it. It's about getting people to try a new craft, a new art form, and to have fun with it. Everyone's saying hi to B Squatch. Douglas Leftridge is leaving messages that I gotta go check out. All right, we are getting to it here. So Ben, why don't you? How quickly can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Myself, well, I've been drawing comics since I was like 13. I'm 41 now, so I'm a lot older than I look. A lot of people think I'm younger, but I'm not. I'm an old guy. And my brother and I both love horror, love Halloween, love monsters. So when we decided to do our own comic book, this is what we decided to do: is Tricks and Treats, which is just like an anthology of horror stories. So if you like Twilight Zone, if you like Outer Limits, if you like Night Gallery, shows like that, you'll like this book.
Yeah, I was super excited about it. We are a Halloween household. So like the mid-August hits and my wife is like, "Can I start decorating?" I'm like,
that's awesome.
I mean, I gotta say no so that you don't look crazy to everybody, but sure, go ahead, you know, I say.
Right. It's just a fun time.
So that's how we are. So this is sort of the closeout party as well. We've got available for limited time here, 2 hours, 52 minutes, and 10 seconds until this campaign closes. I backed at a commission level. What did I get? I got something. I got the book and the sketch. Is this what I got here?
Yeah, that's the one.
Book and the sketch. And no offense, Ben. I know there's an opportunity to get a commission from you as well, but I went with your brother because he was kind of new to me, and I kind of wanted to see like what he would bring to the commission. And I commissioned Jason, my favorite slasher, and boy, did he deliver.
He killed it. Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull that up. Where is it? I didn't get it handy. I didn't think about that. But yeah, highly recommended. We're going to be going through some of the artwork there, and you're going to see some of the different artists and see some of Justin's work as well. So you started making comics when you were 13, you said.
That's when I started drawing. Yeah, that's when I got into it.
Now, what was your inspiration? What was the catalyst? What were you looking at or reading that was like made you want to do that?
I know a lot of people don't like him, but it was actually an article by Rob Liefeld in a Wizard magazine that I read back when Extreme Studios was just starting off. And just, I don't know, just something with the article and just his charisma. I was just like, I want to be an artist too. So that's kind of what drew me in.
Well, you know, with Rob, you could start that sentence off with, a lot of people do like him.
That's true.
A lot of people do like him as well. No, I'm indifferent to him as far as like his attitude towards things and stuff.
Yeah.
I look at him as like a character, you know, none of that stuff ever gets to me or anything like that.
Yeah.
He has fun doing what he's doing, and he does a lot to inspire people and has done a lot over the years. I mean, we're going back, you know, in a couple of years, that's 30 years for you, buddy, that he inspired you.
Yeah.
No, but Rob and those guys were a big inspiration to me. I'm just a few years older than you, so I was there when Rob was doing, you know, Hawk and Dove with Carl Kerschel inks, and that was kind of like the big thing that kind of launched him into all of our collections. And then, of course, with New Mutants and the Cable creation and stuff like that, he blew up even bigger with the Levi's ad. But yeah, Homeboy's been making comics for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do recommend. There are if you like Ben's work after looking at this and checking out some of his stuff, there is a commission for level for Ben as well. Let me get back to the chat, see who we got. Got some new comments. We got Ginge Gingerton in the house. What is up, Ginge Gingerton? We got Colin Swinburne. He made it. What's up, Colin? Simon saying hi to Colin. Ginge Gingerton saying, great group of guys in tonight, but I got to get some sleep. Good night, gang. Congratulations, Ben. I can't wait to read this.
Thanks, Mark. Mark's a good guy. I think we both started our campaign about the same time, and he's been really awesome about sharing my tweets and retweeting, and I try to do the same for him. He's an awesome guy. He's got a campaign going on himself right now.
Yes, he does. It is called Spells and Superheroes, and it's about a team, basically a team of superheroes that gets stuck in a world with an evil dungeon master, and he's playing a deadly game with them. So we're going to be having Mark on. Some of you may know him as Ginge Gingerton, but he is also Mark Mulgrave. So his parents named him that, and he was like, "No, I'm Ginge Gingerton."
That's awesome.
Actually, I think the kids at school named him that, and it just stuck with him. But Ross Wolf says he blew up. Rest in peace. Yeah, he blew up on the internet. Gee, I'm really sorry your mom blew up, Ricky. Some Trailer Park Boys there. Let's see. Look, a fellow Sasquatch or a fellow Squatch. Barbarian Squatch noticing another Squatch. What other Squatch is in the house? Oh, duh, on the page. The Halloween Head comics. I'm like, what is he talking about? I don't understand.
Behind you, Ryan.
It was behind me the whole time. Okay, so let's go through these characters really quick, because that's kind of what I'm curious about too, and I'm sure other people are curious. I want to get to the image here with all of them. Where is that? Down here?
Yeah, it's at the very bottom.
Yeah, let's get to that, because I want to. Yeah, let's go over some of these characters. And you know what? Why don't you explain really quick what Halloween Head Comics is, what Tricks and Treats is, and then go into the characters.
Yeah, so Halloween Head Comics is just what we called our self-publishing company. And Tricks and Treats is the name of the anthology. So that big fish guy right back there, that's an H.P. Lovecraft type fishman monster. And then below him, to his, I guess, your left, is the Woodsman. That's what we call him.
Okay.
Also kind of Lovecraft inspired. He's not really a Lovecraft creature, but my brother took some liberations and came up with that really cool looking creature there. And then you got Bigfoot right next to him. And then Right below him is just it's a ghost. One of our themes on the third issue was ghost stories, and so she's there to represent the ghost.
Damn, you think she thinks of herself as just a ghost?
Probably not.
I had a name.
I was once like you.
Yeah, so is there one story per these characters, like Fishman, Stickman, Hairman, and
Hairman and
Ghost Girl?
Ghost Girl Man? Yeah.
Ghost Girl Man.
No, so there's a theme for each book that was previously printed. So each book, the first one was Lovecraftian creatures, the second one was Bigfoot, and the third one was ghost stories.
Very cool. And how long is the book?
97 pages, and I'm working on a bonus story, which is going to be another additional 7 pages.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. All right, well, we have the links for that up, and we'll take a look at it again in a little bit. We're going to get started on the ink along here. So I'm going to be switching over cameras. I'm going to be doing a little studio trickery here, and we'll get to the ink and talk. So give me 1 second. I'm going to play our theme song while I get ready and let a few more people join us from Twitter, and then we'll get to inking. All right, everybody? How's that sound to you, Ben?
Sounds good, man.
Let's do it.
Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rules, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true. Doing it our way. Nothing's gonna hold us back now. Straight ahead and on the track now. Gonna make our dreams come true. Doing it our way.
All right, can you hear me, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Now can you hear me?
Yep.
All
Loud and
right.
clear.
I pulled a boomer move and have both my cameras up there for a second, but I'm figuring this out. Figuring it out. It's all different for each show I do. So I do the comic ship, and that I don't have an art cam on, so I can just sit at one place. But here I try to get tricky. I haven't learned the Rob Geronimo method yet. I keep forgetting to ask him. He's got some app or some kind of system he's using for his double camera setup. I want to ask him about that.
Yeah, I was wondering how he switched between those two cameras.
All right, so I will have a little trouble getting to comments because I'm going for my camera here, so we'll be jumping back to comments in just a few minutes. I am doing my usual warm-ups here. I'd like to encourage people to do some warm-ups before they start inking or drawing. Much like when you go to a sporting event, and you know how they don't just start the game? They always go out and they do their warm-ups, and they stretch, and they got routines they do. It gets them gets their muscles and their minds warmed up for the task at hand. And I like to do the same thing as an artist. Then I get to sound cool and be like, I'm kind of like an athlete. Yeah, you know,
That's right.
just out here working my butt off for you guys, you know, sacrificing.
Drinking Gatorade, drawing.
Yeah, I got a bucket here after every time I finish late night inks. I got somebody that pours a bucket of Gatorade over me. Then they smack my butt and call it a day.
Yep. Get some sleep.
That's right. So tonight, let's talk about some of the tools we're working with, Ben. So I'm working on some Strathmore. I'll get it out. Strathmore 311 Bristol. Printed up the Halloween head image here. You can see in blue line. And I am going to be inking with my Raphael 8404 size 4. We're going big today. We're going big because I want to do big, thick, juicy lines.
Nice.
And we're going to be using our usual Ultra Draw ink. So how about you, Ben? What tools are you working with?
I'm working on some 103-pound bristle board. And I've got a Pentel pocket brush that I just refilled with some Heart of Darkness ink. Noodler's
how do
ink.
you like that? How do you like that?
I like it because I had another pencil brush before, and I tried to use India ink, and it ended up clogging it because there's too much carbon in it.
Yeah.
And so I haven't had that problem with this Noodler's ink.
That's I'll have to throw that on my list later on. Remind me about that because I'm an old man and I got stuck using the inks I like to use. And then many years have gone by and all the inks have changed and formulas are different and there's new inks and stuff. And now I'm out of the loop. I used to know everything about all the inks, so now I'm looking forward to learning about them all again. All right, so we're going to begin here. Go ahead. Ask away.
I was just going to ask, what's your favorite ink to use?
What's funny is I don't really have a favorite. There's so many that did different things. So for years and years, I mostly used Speedball pigmented acrylic ink, which is a really heavy, denser black ink than the regular Speedball or the super black, because it's more like a liquid acrylic.
Gotcha.
And I started using that. That was the one Danny Mickey used, and I would use that, and then I would use either FW or Rapidograph ink for filling in the blacks, for spotting blacks and big brush areas and stuff like that. But we did so much with the nib, we were barely using brush for line work at the time. So we were fine with the pigmented acrylic ink. And then I moved to FW for years. Used that on many of my projects. And then I finally settled on the Ultra Draw from Rapidograph because I just like the flow of it. It flows off my brush kind of the way I want it to. It's not as black as I would like, but I age my inks so they get a little blacker.
Gotcha.
And I'll double up if I need to or whatever. I mean, it's not that big a deal that it's not that black, but it doesn't lift that much when erased. That's the other thing I like. So
and is there a different density you look for when you're switching between brush and nib?
For me, what I liked about the pigmented acrylic was that it came off the nib really slow. Okay. So if you slowed down your line, because I vary the speeds depending on like what part of the line I'm doing. Sometimes if I'm trying to shape up like a thick part of the line, I'll slow down for a second. And the brush, like the ink doesn't flow off the brush unless you're moving, but the nib, it wants to like let the ink off. If you got too much on there, it wants to leave the nib because it's just metal. It's just ink on metal.
Right.
And it's using itself, it's sticking to itself more than it's sticking to the metal. So the thicker the ink I had, the more comfortable I felt moving at the speeds I moved at. But then with the brush ink, I wanted that more fluid. So that's why for a while I was using 2 inks for things. And even when I started working with guys like Joe Weems, he would use 2 different inks as well. He would actually use the same ink, but he would age them differently. So his nib ink, he would have one jar and it would be aged longer and be heavier and thicker black. And then anything for brush was more viscous, had more water to it than pigment.
Gotcha.
But I do appreciate probably like 3 or 4 years ago, I got into using brush markers because they started stepping up the ink quality in those. Even stuff like I've used these zebra markers, which are much like the Tombos with the soft felt sort of brush. I really started to like the feel of these. They kind of, especially these blue ones, this size, it really gave me something in between a nib and a pencil, which I really liked inking with. And the ink was permanent enough that I could use it on original art and it would last. And so far it's looked good. It's all acid free, the ink and stuff, so it shouldn't yellow over time on the originals and stuff. So should be good.
Right. And those are felt, or is that rubber? nib?
You know, it's it might have some rubber base, but it's definitely got some sort of felt, a really dense felt. But what I like to do is when you start using it, the felt wraps up around the tip, the very tip, and it gives you this one little like kind of sharp hair that sticks off.
Yeah,
but it doesn't really work well for. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I noticed that whenever I'm using a ruler, I always accidentally like cut into my nib. It ends up like tearing up that little like a little piece of felt. I'll get that little hair kind of strand sticking out.
If it's on the side, I don't know what to do. But if it's on the very tip, I found that I put it down on the board and either use a blade or like my fingernail. Usually I have to use a blade. My finger's not sharp enough, but to like just kind of snip that little bit off, and then the pen is perfect after that for me for this the way I want to use it. So there's, you know, sometimes you gotta manipulate your tools a little bit.
Right.
Michael Golden used to cut his brushes at an angle.
Really?
He would take brushes like this, and I dabbled with it a few times, and it was kind of cool. But for a long time, brushes are so expensive. I was like, I'm not gonna get a $25 brush and try cutting it at a certain angle and screw it up. But he used to do that, and it would kind of, the chisel shape it would create would you could bear down and get a nice steady weight on the line.
How often?
Really, go ahead.
How often do you go through brushes?
If I'm taking really good care of the brush, it'll easily last me years and years, but I try to buy a new one at least once a year, which the investment is not really that bad when you look at it like that. People are like, oh, you know, brush is $25 to $40, and it's like, well, just buy one, and it does everything I need. But I've done so much work before that I've gone through a brush in a couple months, but that's also because I'm not cleaning it properly when I should because of deadlines. You know, I finish a page and just pass out, and the next morning you're like, I gotta clean my brush.
Right.
And then a few bristles break off and stuff like that. So there have been times like that, and now in my older age, I've gotten kind of used to taking care of the brush. So it's kind of automatic. I'm done. I'll just go wash it off. It'll last me for as long as I need it to, basically. But someone that doesn't ink as much as me, you could probably get a nice brush and it would last you in really good shape. It'd probably stay in really good shape for a good 4 years. So we're going to talk technique here for a second. What I did was, what I like to do when I'm inking a blue line page is go in and do all the contours first. Sort of identify all the shapes. So I went in and inked the bow around his neck first, and then we went and did the collar. Then I did the leaves on top of his head, and then now we're doing the details like the mouth, the nose, and the eyes, stuff like that. So we're identifying all the pieces that make up the image.
Nice.
Now, do you have method to your madness, or are you pure madness with your art?
Yeah, I just start wherever. I think I start wherever looks easiest first.
Okay.
So I can tackle that and get that out of the way, and that way I'm warmed up by the time I get to the more intricate parts, I guess.
That works. No, that's good. I used to, my kind of go-to method used to be start outlining the shapes like this, you know, legs, like whatever, the contour lines, the outlines for all the figures. And then I'd go in and, I don't know, after doing that for like an hour and a half or so, then I would feel nice and warm, like my hands warmed up, I'm having fun. That's when I would hit all the faces and hands. Like I would get all the important stuff done while my hand was like going like, let's do this. All right, I'm having fun inking. I'm like, yeah, all right. So we'd go in and do all that important stuff. and then spend the rest of the time on the page doing backgrounds, filling in black shapes, rendering, stuff like that. And then as your hand gets tired or whatever throughout the day, you've already done the important stuff, so you can, you can chill out.
That makes sense.
So everyone's got their own techniques and stuff. One of the, because I would vary it up too. It's not just like I tell you I did it one way. It wasn't always like that one way for 20 years. You try different things and stuff. One of the methods when I was working with Danny, we would just start in the lower left-hand corner of the page. And you got all your panels like this, and just start down there and work away from that spot, so that you're constantly leaving the wet ink spots behind you and just moving up and across like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I mean, especially if you're working at home, you don't have to care about all that much stuff. You can like lay down a little bit and then like, oh, I'm gonna go do a chore for a minute or do something else. But when you're working on a deadline, you've got to figure out like, okay, how's this gonna work? Like, how am I gonna get this done today?
Right.
Basically, so you're like, well, I don't have time to stop and let it dry. So how am I gonna figure that out?
So how many pages would you knock out in a day?
I like to average one a day myself as an inker. When I was part of a studio, we try to get 1 to 1.25, sometimes even more done with Danny, like, because we had 4 people at the studio at one point. So we could really crank stuff out. But I felt comfortable with the money I could make. This is for a while. Page rates are horrible nowadays, but for a while I could make a good living at DC doing 1 page a day. And that would, I'd usually meet my deadlines. You get a couple bucks royalties on this or that, depending if the sales are good. And there were guys that worked faster than me, and I probably could have worked faster, but I wanted my stuff to be like a certain quality too. So I was kind of snobby about that. All right, so now I'm going to be going in and doing the heavy black shapes, and then I'm going to do a couple of these, and then I'm going to look at the questions from the chat, see what we got going on. Because I see it flying by, but I haven't been able to look at it. Okay, so now I want to ask you some stuff too. So you started at a young age. Now, what's the difference between you and your brother in age?
We're 7 years apart.
Oh, okay. So he was just a kid. You were making comics on your own. He was watching Sesame Street.
Yeah, no, actually, he started drawing with me when I would sit down and draw.
That's cool.
And that's why he's so good. He's definitely better than I am.
Oh, he started younger, so he's got the Tiger Woods effect.
That's right.
Started as a baby.
Yeah, and he's colorblind, and he does some really interesting paintings. He has a process that I'm not sure I've ever heard another artist do, which is he takes a photograph of something, inverts the colors digitally, then uses that to paint from, like onto a canvas, and then he'll take a picture of the canvas and revert it back to the original colors, I guess, and like those colors just pop.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I have had a few friends that were painters that were colorblind, and their stuff was always more interesting in that sense, like however color worked for them. But then your brother's obviously also bouncing it off non-colorblind people, so he's able to gauge, like, does this look cool?
Right.
Stuff like that. I'd be curious to see that. I really like his line work that I've seen so far for the Tricks and Treats book, but I didn't know if he was a painter as well. He's new to me, like as in the last month. So I haven't really seen much.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys have a comic line or like your own characters you were making up at the time?
Oh yeah, when I was a kid, like I used to tell him bedtime stories, and I used to make up characters, and I would ask him like, which character do you want to hear about tonight? And he'd tell me like this character or whatever. And so I would tell him a story.
With these characters?
No, not these characters. It'd be like
Oh,
superhero
okay.
characters that I just kind of created.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah, they were all just knockoffs of Marvel DC characters.
That's all right. That's all anything is.
I was 13.
I'm 40 something, and that's still my characters are just knockoffs of stuff. Even when I don't mean it to be that, but that's where I am creatively, where like I see things now and I'm like, oh, everything's the same.
It is. It's true.
Everything's the same. Just do your own take on it and have fun with it. Because everyone will see similarities in your work, even if you don't. Be like, oh, Is this like this? And you're like, oh, I didn't mean for it to be, but yeah, it is like that.
Very true.
Now, what about when you got older? Like, say you're in high school and stuff. Like, were you guys starting to come up with like creative projects together or anything like that?
Not really. The first time I actually drew a real comic book was when I was 19. I did it with a friend of mine. He created this Batman type character, and I drew that. Didn't really do anything with it until I moved to Tulsa when I was about 20 something. I don't remember. And I went to my very first comic book convention, and I met these guys, and they invited me to one of their meetings. And so then I started doing work for them just for free. It was just for fun. It wasn't a paid gig or anything like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it allowed me to learn and to kind of get some practice.
No, that's how you got to do it. Everyone's got to find some sort of method, some sort of path that'll get you putting pencil to paper.
Right.
And some people tell you like, oh, don't take those free gigs, but like when you're 19, whatever, just like find something that's gonna make you active.
Right.
Find something that'll get you a little attention. Like whatever it is. Don't be afraid of that. So yeah, you got to do that stuff because that's how you get experience, man. You have to put pencil to paper.
Right.
So then what happened? You're
did
19. You did that.
I did that for a few years with them. I was in my mid-20s by that point. And I started doing freelance color work for other publishers. But then I had a bad experience with with one of those clients, and it just kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth for doing freelance. And so I just stopped doing that. Kind of kept to myself for a while, and I would still do it just for fun. If I saw somebody post a drawing, I'd just grab it and color it, and just to keep in practice.
I'll tell you what, the people I know that turned out to be the happiest were the people that realized early on they didn't like freelance work and went to like do something else for them, their families, and then are doing exactly what you're doing, where they're coming back to comics when they're comfortable doing it their way.
Right.
And doing what they want to do. So no, I think I commend you for that. You got a wife and kids or something? Is that?
I've got a wife. I don't have kids.
Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a little personal here.
That's all good.
That's what happens when I ink. I don't know why. I start to get personal with people.
Good.
Yeah, we're a kid-free house here too, so I get to do the arts whenever I want, and that's something that I didn't appreciate the same when I was younger. Now that I've got a lot more friends that are parents, and a lot more of my dude friends are dads and stuff, they're like take advantage of all that time you got. I'm like, I will, I won't be lazy at all, I swear. Because even for them, they're like, if you have free time, you better not be lazy, you son of a... I'm like, okay, I won't.
It's very true. At least that's what I hear.
Do you are you cool with saying like what you worked on, like color wise? Is it something we would have heard of, like a indie company we know, or?
I did a pinup for Dark Horse Comics in a book called what's it called? Once Upon a Time Machine. It was an anthology book.
Okay.
I colored a book called Bubba the Redneck Werewolf, I think.
Nice.
By Creature Entertainment out in Florida. And there was another one of their books. I think it was called like TS 101 or something like that. It was like a sci-fi superhero book. Colored for New Myth Comics out of Oklahoma City. And then a local publisher here called Equinox Comics.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. I didn't know that about you. And your color work is that of a professional colorist that's been coloring comics for a while. So that all makes sense to me now.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's very few people that color with the color sense that you do that don't have experience. So yeah, when I first saw your work, I was like, "Oh, is this somebody I've been sleeping on for a long time? Like, what's up with this guy?" And then, of course, like you said at the start of the show, I saw you and I was like, "Oh, he's just a boy. It's just a baby. He's like 13. Oh my gosh." And then you're like, "No, I'm older than that." I'm like, "Well, that makes more sense then, and I feel better then that you're not 13 and like the best colorist I've ever seen." Because yeah, if you guys aren't familiar, Ben is I mean, I would say you show off color theory extremely well. You have a great balance of I don't know, it doesn't look old school. It's very, very modern in your approach and your shading techniques and stuff, but your use of color is old school to me, where I have a feeling your flats look really good all on their own. Like
Thanks,
you
man.
probably separate the layers nicely. You know how to use warms and cools to contrast each other. On Halloween Head, I'm getting excited now talking about your work. You do something that I hate to do because I'm so bad at it, is you use brown a lot and you use it wonderfully. I hate using brown because it's brown. Like, I don't mind the color. Like in real life, I'm kind of brown. It's my eyes, my hair, my like whatever. Half my family, like it's all brown. But there's something about, like, I get scared when I'm using it in comics because like it feels too earthy to me. And then I end up using weird colors, and that was one of the things I was like, I gotta take note from Ben on how to use brown. That Sasquatch and the wood dude are badass, and they don't look like mud, because that's what you don't want. You don't want muddy browns.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so it's all just making sense to me, and it's all making me feel better that, like, oh, he's experienced. He's not just some freak of nature that was just so talented that nobody ever used.
Right.
Now, okay, so I do apologize for sort of the randomness of my questions. When I'm inking and running the show, it's just kind of how it is. What are the future plans, like further plans for the Halloween Head comics line and or the Tricks and Treats anthology?
So I was doing the Tricks and Treats every year, but it's been a bit much, and there's other projects I want to work on. So what I'm going to do is do it biannually, like every 2 years. I'll release a new book, and there are other books I want to do. I think I told you about one of them, which is like this character, Lil Jack. I'd love to do a book about him.
Say his name for us one more time.
Lil Jack, or Lil Jack.
Like Lil?
Lil, yeah, like a rapper name. Yeah.
Yeah, yo, Lil Jack.
Yeah, in the house.
Jack you up, yeah. Jack you up.
Yeah, and then I'm also working on a Western cosmic horror story. I've been working on that for a few years now, and I'm just really anxious to draw that and get that out.
Oh, that's cool. That's all you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Let's see. While my ink is drying here, I'm gonna take a look at the comments here. We got Ross Wolf. He says, "I know Bob Ross didn't mean anything bad by it. It's just a surprising number of people don't know what colorblind means. Oh, I think I missed something here. It said, colorblind is a bit of a misnomer. Color vision deficient is more accurate, but a bit of a mouthful. Yeah, that was something because you kind of grow up just thinking like, oh, colorblind people just see in black and white?
Right.
Weird. And you're like, no, it's actually some they're only blind to certain colors, or the certain pigments cause certain shifts in their retina that reads the color differently. And it's a message from the eye to the brain that it's a little bit different. I bet Bob Ross had some interesting stuff to say. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I was gonna say with my brother, the colors he has issues with are red and greens.
A lot of the times it is complementary colors like that, because they're sort of opposites on the wavelength field. Yeah. So that'll happen. Most people I know, it's either red and green or like violet and yellow. Or not most people I know, sorry. The few colorblind people I know. Not most people in general that I know. I hang out in a colorblind community.
Right.
Ross Wolf says, my son is colorblind, so it's a personal issue for me. Yeah. There you go. And it's one of those things like, I mean, nowadays they find out pretty early, but it's hard to even gauge until you really do like the little colorblind tests and stuff for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't find out he was colorblind until he was in his early 20s.
Yeah, I knew someone, it was past college. Because they had no reason to know. Like because that's the other thing too. Like it goes back to that philosophical question that we all think we came up with when we were 17 smoking pot for the first time, where it was like, wait, is the way you see yellow the same yellow I see?
Right.
So someone else, you don't know. You'll have no way of gauging that. That's what's so strange about colorblindness, is that they're going to register something, but you're going to say, hey, that thing is called green. And they'll be like, okay. It doesn't look the same to them. And they might not even see it in contrast. But I don't know. Vision's very fascinating to me. Like eyeballs are interesting. Just the way we take in color, the way we take in contrast. Like when I first started studying inking, I was all about like learning how contrast works on the brain and stuff like that, because we see black and white in the image before we see the colors.
Yeah.
And that's one of the one of the reasons I think the flatter colors tend to work, is when you let that line work sing. There's something about it making like a stamp, like imprinting on the reader's in their brain, pretty much, burning through their retina and imprinting this line work in their brain, and then the color just adds to it like music. Ty Ranger says, my uncle is colorblind, so I kind of get it. Seems for him there's gray tones, but he'll see two colors as the same color too. And you know what? Those are probably those complementary colors that he's seen as the same.
Right.
Hey, Matt Nick showed up. Matt Nick is a up-and-coming, or I don't want to say up-and-coming. He's an indie colorist that kicks butt and is also an extremely positive force on both Twitter and Instagram. So if Matt Nick ever pops up, say hi to him. Be nice. He's a very cool dude, and I really dig his color work.
Cool.
So we're getting colorblind facts here. Ross Wolf with chat facts. We got women are only like 5% of colorblind people. If you want to learn more, I did some studying when I found out my son was colorblind, so I could tell you a bit. I'm fascinated. I almost feel like that's something have Ross on sometime, and let's talk about how that works. I don't know if you do that stuff, Ross. I know you always join in and hang out, but I don't know if you've ever actually joined a stream. Silvar Ogre says, hey folks, got here late after RV game night. Yeah, I saw they were having fun doing that. I'm hoping to learn some gaming here pretty soon. Were you ever a gamer? And I'm talking RPG games, Ben.
Like on a console, or do you mean like...
Or role play, sorry, I mean like, say Dungeons and Dragons.
No, not really. Not too much.
I never did, And when I was young, it was that thing where I was like, it's a little too nerdy for me. I'll just go over here and read my comics and be that kind of nerd. So I was like, yeah. Which translation, because back then, nerd meant smart. Nerd didn't mean geek. So like, I didn't think I was smart enough. And I thought it was just the smart geeky kids were doing the Dungeons and Dragons, and I was too dumb for it. And I didn't realize till like 10 years ago that no, you sit around with your friends and you make up these cool stories and characters, and like, it's like improv imagination. And I was like,
I did already.
But I was like, oh, I feel like I missed out on 30 years of having fun now. So we're gonna have Yang Yan Zhao, a friend of ours from YouTube, and he's gonna come on we're gonna do a few episodes of the Comic Ship where he's gonna teach us how to play Dungeons and Dragons, and
that's cool.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with it. Go ahead.
Do you watch Community?
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah. That show made Dungeons and Dragons look awesome. Look like fun.
That might have been where I saw it, and I was like, wait a second, that's what they're doing when they play Dungeons and Dragons? Real quick, a little technique comment. I'm going in and doing some rendering now, so you can see these lines here. I'm going to be doing a little bit of rendering out, which is how you shape the pumpkin, you shape whatever it is, whatever object you're doing. Yeah, you give dimension to it, and you also soften up the transitions between the black and the white that way, which is a stylistic choice. You can go Mignola style if you want and have super hard transitions between the black and the white, but I'm gonna break it up here a little bit, have a little fun with it. What were we talking about, Ben? Dungeons and Dragons, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was going through the chat. That's what I was doing. Silver Ogre says he's been playing D&D since 1981. Wow. Was that the year you were born, Ben?
79 is when I was born.
79, all right. Barbarian Sasquatch says, you missed out on some serious fun time. Yeah, I know I did. Russell says, too dumb for D&D. You would have been the perfect barbarian. No, it's definitely something I feel like I missed out on. Ty Ranger says, I was the opposite. I played D&D and didn't get into comics. Oh. And Simon7, one of our many regular friends, our usuals, if you will, he says, I've been playing RPGs since the early 90s, right? Yeah, because I worked at a comic shop too, so like I had access to everything.
Yeah, no excuse.
Yeah. But that was the 80s and 90s where you could be 13 and 14 and have a job. Like, which didn't seem weird then, but like now talking to people or friends, or like my nephew is 16 and I can't imagine him having any kind of job. So it's weird that like literally at 12 years old, I went into the comic shop and talked the guy into hiring me once a week, and then worked there all through high school till I made the basketball team. And then I was like, I'm too cool for the comic shop. I'm a basketball player now. I'm going to the NBA.
That's right.
And then I sat on the bench for a year. They hired some cute girl at the comic shop. They wouldn't hire me back because of that. I was like, come on, hire me back. And they're like, no, look at her, look at you. No. I'm like, ah. Because we were a marine town. I grew up in El Toro, California, and 90% of our clients were Marines. So once we got a cute girl working at the register, they were like, I'm leaving if you get a different kid at the register. All right, how's your piece coming along there?
There you go.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good.
Thanks.
I see you chose to go with the background one.
Yeah, I did.
You didn't wuss out on me.
I did not. I want to know how you do those. What do you call those lines?
I would call those bleeds.
Bleeds, we just kind of feather them out like that?
Yeah. Let's see.
How do you do it?
If I want them very pretty, I'm going to take my brush, Man, I was gonna be lazy about it, but then you asked. So I'm like, damn,
Right.
now I gotta do them pretty. Because if I was doing them with my marker, I was using the marker for some of the rendering, I would literally just go thick to thin, just pull straight down, like
Okay.
and fade it out. But if I want them to look a little, I don't know, maybe a little sweeter, I'm gonna use the real brush. Make sure this is all dry first. Yep, we are good. We are good. Dry, dry, dry. Okay, we are dry. So then I will follow the form I created. So the circle form or the ellipses kind of rounder shape that I've created in here.
Right.
I'm gonna keep that in mind when I'm doing the rendering. Damn it! I just filled in that part with black and it's wet now. All right, well, we'll start over here. So brush stroke movement. This isn't just for you, Ben. This is part of how I teach and remind people. I want the line to end up in this black area I've created. So I'm going to rest my hand where the line ends.
Okay.
Because that's going to be the natural spot that your hand wants to end. It always wants the wrist. It kind of always wants the center. It's very comfortable being centered. You pull it back, it centers. You push it forward, it centers. The muscles do that on their own for the most part. So you pick where you're gonna land, and then you just pull or push forward to where you want to start. And here I'm going to be going thin to thick, and we're going to follow the curved line that we're going into. And if you want your where you get heavy, it can meet before you get to that circular, the round line, so you can have the bleeds, more triangular like that. Or you can do thinner lines if you want to.
Can you put yourself on full screen so we can get a better view?
Let me see if I can do that from here on the phone. Yes, I can. I hadn't done that before. So here we go. I'll do this run here for you to see. And again, these are just my live inks. These aren't me doing the absolute best inks I can do. I got the camera between me and the board, but this is the technique. I'm just following that round shape. And what's more important than making sure your line weight is right is to keep the rhythm going. You can go back and thicken up a line or beef it up, or if you want to make these thicker at the base, you can do that, but you can always go back and do that. You really want to get the rhythm going. The rhythm of the line is more important than the exact shape of the line. So you can see it's already turning out. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's a decent fade there. And now as we get to this lower one, we're going to make the lines even longer. And we're still going to follow the form of that circular shape that I created in the back. But we're going to make the lines even longer. And I can see those questions popping up. We'll get back to those in just a sec as this dries up.
Yeah, Al Padrino is saying add some splatter.
Splatter? Oh, man. I have feelings about splatters. Splatters can be useful. They can be a crutch sometimes, and I used them as a crutch for years, doing spawn and stuff like that. Sometimes you add a little splatter, and it feels like, oh, extra textures, extra technique. And then you'll get a lot of people that are like, oh, what, were you running out of time? You had to go for the splatters? You're like, shush, shush, quiet. That's exactly what happened. But I like it sometimes too. Like, I got to the point, like, my DC work got really textured. So I wouldn't use any splatter unless there was an actual, like, blood splatter kind of thing.
Okay.
Then I would put the splatter into effect. But I'm not against now, that being said, I'm not against it as a choice for other artists. I'm purely talking myself. I don't look at other people and see the splatter and think it's dumb or bad or anything. A lot
So you're
of
not
times,
disappointed in Rob then?
in Rob, Geronimo? No,
yeah.
absolutely not. No, Rob Rob's a very unique artist in his own right, but talk about somebody that uses the splatter correctly.
Yeah, I only bring him up because Padrino mentioned him. He said Rob would be disappointed.
No, that's funny. Yeah, but for myself, I just I don't do it as much. I'm getting too far apart on these lines too.
Yeah, you have a very clean, sharp style.
A lot of that comes from my granddad did pinstriping as one of the crafts he got really good at in the 60s here in Southern California. He worked with like Shaky Jake and a bunch of other guys that used to do pinstriping for Big Daddy Roth. And
what's pinstriping for?
Pinstriping would be on the old hot rods. They would, let's see. So you've got your fender over your wheel here.
Yeah.
And they would say your car is green. They would take a thin orange line and do like a hand painted abstract design that usually followed the shape of the car, the flow.
Gotcha.
You'll see them, especially on old hot rods. It was the thing. And my grandpa was an artist and stuff on the side. He's a fireman for a living, but he did art on the side and learned how to do that. So in the 80s, when I was a kid and getting into making comics, he was showing me all these brush techniques. And most of my brush movement, my arm and my hand, everything like that, it's all based and inspired by calligraphy and pinstriping.
That is really cool.
Yeah, my mom was a calligraphist when I was a kid, like professionally. Like her work was, she would do like this, like a poem or a Bible verse, and then put it onto a piece of wood and like chunk up the wood and burn it and stuff. And like they were one of a kind pieces that were sold countrywide at all these Christian bookstores. Like she got in with this like chain of Christian bookstores.
That's awesome.
So like I started learning about, like all the stuff we do now, like running your own independent company and being creative and all that stuff. Like my parents were kind of showing me when I was young. So awesome. I would help. I didn't realize it at the time, but I would help her out. And I learned, the technique, like when I was talking about these bleeds and I said, your hand rests, it comes to rest at the center.
Right.
And you always want to work to that from either way. You either want to pull or push towards that. That's all calligraphy moves. That's all stuff I learned as a kid. But it was the stuff that like, when I started inking and becoming an assistant for people, they were like, "Oh, okay, this kid's not that experienced, but he knows something. He's got the techniques down."
Right.
So I was either a major threat to people or they were trying to get me to be their assistant.
So let me ask you this, because I've heard you say that you were an assistant for a while. What does an inker's assistant do exactly?
So it started off. You would just do things like the panel borders. Like if you want to, like I started a little beyond that just because my experience and my samples were a little more beyond what they had expected to see. But kind of the standard route was you would start as panel borders and you would just take the ruler and you would ink out all the panel borders and you would probably get, I think, like $2 a panel, something like that. And then you're in charge of filling in the blacks. And so everywhere here that we would have filled in black would have been outlined and then little X's put in where we would have to fill in black. That would be passed over to us from either the head artist or the second assistant. And then you fill in the blacks and that's your position. So you do that and then you erase the boards. So you're doing panel borders, you're filling in the blacks, and then you're erasing the pencils. When I started, we were still sending in pages, so we didn't have to scan them at the time. So we would just finish the pages and like literally chase down the FedEx truck in the neighborhood. Like there's more times than not, I was on a skateboard with 2 FedEx boxes under my arms, like skating like mad, trying to catch the guy before he left the neighborhood.
That's awesome.
at like Danny's house or something because we'd work there. So yeah, you would kind of work your way up, and then my thing was I worked my way up with both Danny or with 3 people: John Livesay, Joe Weems, and Danny Mickey. And each person I kind of worked up the ladder to the point where I was doing background characters, and then sometimes even like main characters, but not their faces, like depending on how much time the head inker on the project had to spend. So they would always do faces and hands no matter what, and the assistants would kind of branch out and do everything else.
Gotcha. That's really cool.
So there were times like when I was part of Crime Lab, which was Danny Mickey's studio, when we were doing Spawn and Marvel stuff. There was times where we were probably getting 4 books a month done.
Wow.
At like really high level quality inks too. And then when I moved to Livesay was about a book a month, individual, like just used one assistant for backgrounds. And then Joe Weems was extremely slow, like 2 pages a week maybe of Silvestri. Like he would spend 8 hours a day inking, or maybe 6 hours a day inking, like really intense inking, and then call it. But it would take him days to finish a page because they were so like, they just perfect. They had to be perfect.
Right.
I'm gonna see what catch up with the chat now that I think I'm done with my piece.
Nice.
Simonin says, oh, thank you. Simonin says, still not over the little Halloween feet. Oh, these look like feet. Ah, jeez. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see. Geronimo draws, not Geronimo inks. Just saying.
Very true.
Let's see. That's the splatter talk we were having. Simonin says, now I want to listen to Keeper of the Seven Keys. Ty says, Simonin, it's just because he said he was inspired by Rob Liefeld, huh? I hate when it's always something, I miss one part of the conversation in the chat, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. Damn it. Mel Padrino, who were you an assistant for? Just say the name, Ryan. That's I mean, I think you've been around enough, Ben, to know that Mel Padrino is always so respectful to me and never making fun of me in any way. Did you see his drawing from the other night?
I did.
That was too funny.
You're talking about the soccer one, right?
Yeah. So if you don't know, that's my head was the soccer ball. And it's part 2 of a series, or maybe more parts, but he did a drawing of Medusa with my head. One. Yeah, so I think that's the head. The Medusa's head has been lobbed off and is now the soccer ball. But yeah, it's hilarious. Simonin7 says, Ross is making me seriously consider watching that Better Off Dead movie, one of the few John Cusack I've never watched. Oh, if you like the old Cusack films, yeah, Better Off Dead's just another great one. It's very dated. It feels like the year it came out, like 82 or 83, something like that. But it's a fun John Cusack movie.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. You just watched the original trailer. Did you ever do that? Do you go back and have you ever watched trailers from movies you loved when you were young?
Yeah. And they look so different.
They're so bad. And everything's like, it's a movie. Oh my gosh. Like, no matter how serious or jokey, every trailer kind of had this tone of like, we got a movie. All right. And you're like, what? So
very
weird.
true. Yeah.
Sasquatch Barbarian says, was the Christian bookstore chain Alpha and Omega? Jeez, that sounds familiar. It might be. Because she was part of 2. One was just called, I think, like American Christian Bookstore. I think it was ABCS was that. And that was more of a local California one, I think. But man, Alpha and Omega, that sounds familiar. Yeah, my mom went through a kick too, where once she started doing that, like the Christian stuff, She was like, oh, and this only lasted for a summer. She was like, I think you should only read comics from the Christian bookstore. And I was like, all right, well, whatever. And it was like 10. So I'm like, whatever, they got comics. I'll check them out. And it was stuff like Tom Landry, the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and his trip through Christianity in the 70s. And I was like, all right, well, this is interesting, but like, I still kind of want to read detective comics, Mom. I was like, I still kind of want my Batman, if that's okay. And no disrespect to Mr. Landry, his story was it was good and inspiring, but it wasn't really the comics I was seeking out, you know.
That's awesome.
And also, like I remember, like the first heavy metal Christian band that I heard of was Striper. And they came and they did a signing there, and my mom took me to their signing, and I didn't want to like them, but it had nothing to do with them being Christian. It was, as a kid, I was not grossed out. I was creeped out by glam bands, like the man in the makeup with the fishnet shirt, like gave me heebie-jeebies, like as a little kid.
Right.
So it just wasn't working for me. Oh, Silvar, so sweet. I am a Geronimo fan, but a bigger fan of Ryan Wynn. So just don't let Rob hear you say that. He'll kick me off Tuesday Night Draw. Ross Wolf quoting Better Off Dead. $2. I want my $2. Which that was something. I mean, that was just like a meme in real life. After that, like if someone owed you money or owed you something, or you would just say, you know, I want my $2. Yeah, Ross Wolf confirming trailers from the 80s are so bad. Barbarian Sasquatch, OMFG. I have some Christian comics, laughing out loud. It's always funny because like more people had these and saw them than ever like admit to. I think people are like, or they're not embarrassed about being Christians or whatever, but they're embarrassed about like if they read, you know, dorky comics or something.
Yeah, the one I remember there was one called Bible Man, I think.
Oh, I don't know if I ever saw Bible Man.
Yeah, he looked like a superhero, but I never picked up the book. I just remember flipping through it when I would go to a Christian bookstore.
Yeah, I remember even when I had kind of gotten tired of it, like by the end of the summer, and I had read all 12 books that they had, and because they weren't getting monthly comics, you know, it was just like they ordered them from whatever book publisher had those at the time, so they were just there. But even as a kid, my mom would go to drop off her stuff at the shop, and I'd be like, I gotta go to the spinner rack, and it's like still just the same books, but I was just like, I gotta look because it's a spinner rack, man.
Right.
Let's see. Oh, I just realized I'm still full screen. There we go. Let's check out how you're doing. Hey, looking good, man.
Thanks.
Let's see. We're getting some more chat facts here. SDA says young Ryan was questioning his sexuality. LOL. I was questioning mine and theirs and everything because it wasn't even a sexual thing. That's what I think was weird about it. It was just like didn't seem normal to me. You know, like they didn't look like my teachers or my dad.
Right.
And so it was just weird. But then Boy George came out, and we got the Culture Club album, and you know, David Lee Roth kind of got me dancing to guys in makeup. It became cool to me eventually, but at first it wasn't. Which well, there's a funny here. I'm gonna share something about Danny Mickey, my former mentor and boss. So I showed up at his house the first week, and I would go there a few times. And like the second day, I'm sitting there inking at the assistant desk, and he puts down a photo album, like one of those ones, like, you know, the padded cover, like the cellophane kind of covered pages inside. And he's like, "There you go." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "All right." And he's standing behind me, and I flip it open, and the first page is him in like a unitard that's like open down to his waist, singing into a microphone. And I was like, "What?" And then he turned the pages more, and he was in a full glam band that used to open for Rat. And I forget their name, but he was like, I just thought you should get to know me. And I was like, you'd have no idea how glad I am you opened for Rat. I just thought this was a photo album of you in unitards that you were like, here, take a look. I was like, oh God, this is uncomfortable. I was like, next assistant, little bit of setup before they open the photo album.
Right.
Because it was actually, it actually turned out to be very cool, and his stories were super cool, and he even built like Rat's drum cages for them for a number of years and stuff like that. But it was funny. I'll just never forget that first moment of flipping that photo album open and being like, oh, is this where he starts to kiss me on the neck or something? Like, I'm like, oh, this is about to get weird, isn't it?
That's funny.
And then, no joke, I've told this story before, but sorry for anyone listening. No joke, he had a side room that was like where you ate lunch and stuff. And his wife had made like some tacos or something. It was like, hey, I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like, your wife makes us tacos and we're inking comics. Like, this is so cool. Tacos turned out to be vegetarian, which is very disappointing.
Yeah.
But right before that, he's like, hey, come in here and sit down. And I'm like, okay. And it's like it's almost like a walk-in closet, this little room. And the door's open to the inside. And I walk in, and all I see is a little table and the little chair that he's in. And he goes, come on in and get comfy. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't think there's enough room on there for us to get comfy. And he starts cracking up. He's like, bah, bah. He goes, behind the door, there's a chair, you idiot. And I was like, oh, okay. I was just like, I'm sorry, man. You started the day with like pictures of you in a unitard, and like they invited me into this little room, and I was like, I didn't know how to take any of this, man.
That's funny.
So let's see. Simon says, Rat, that was a revolving door opportunity. Yeah, I think they had a lot of members just coming in and out. Silvar says his ex's first concert was Rat and Poison. I bet that was a good time. And Ty Ranger saying he'd probably be fired for that these days. Oh yeah, I could hop to Twitter and be like, he showed me pictures of his body. I don't think he should have a job anywhere anymore.
Cancel him.
Yeah, do your thing, Twitter. Do your thing. Apologize that this happened to me, everybody. No, I could take it. I was a tough kid. Plus, I just thought it was funny. I was like 21. I'm like, cool. Am I gonna have to punch my way out of this room? This will be fun. Like, this is kind of how it was, you know.
Right.
Then it just turned out to be a huge relief that he's just a normal dude. He just liked to wear tights back in the 80s and run around on stage.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right, now you're killing me with your tiny little brush strokes filling in the large black area.
Sorry.
That's where you're supposed to whip out the mop and
Gotcha.
lay it down.
I really don't have a large brush. What size brush do you use?
For that, I like to use like a 4 or a 6 for stuff like that. Like get it really big. Or even I don't have it handy, but even those giant bamboo, like they literally look like a mop brush, like for barbecue.
Oh yeah.
Like those work really well for filling in black areas. Because I like to like, man, if I get an inch stroke out of a brush and take care of 1 inch at a time of laying in black, hell yeah.
Yeah. See what I have.
Oh, and don't really worry about it. I'm just giving you crap, man.
No, I mean, I want to learn, so I appreciate it.
Because I think we all went through the phase of just scribbling back and forth with a felt tip marker to fill in black when we were young, and you had those like layers of just filled in lines going all the way up the page.
Right.
Silvar, big brush energy. Simonin says, now Ryan is flexing his big brush privilege. Hey, we got 11 people still with us. That's awesome. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Yeah, Ben is, I'm going to call you my color assistant. I'm going to call you part of the coloring team. That's what how I think it should be stated. Because I think assistant would imply that you don't color at the level that you color at. and I don't want that to be. So I think I'm going to call you a member of the coloring team.
Yeah. Honestly, I was surprised that you announced that was gonna be your flatter, because like flatters don't really get any kind of notice. I guess I don't know. I was surprised that you did that. I appreciate that.
No, it's an important part of the process. You know, I didn't do it out of like any kind of like virtue signal of like I think flatters and other people don't. It's just mostly like you're literally part of the team. You're helping out, and anyone deserves credit for the work they do. You know. But yeah, Ben is an artist, a writer, a creator, a friend to indie and alterna comics and channel creators alike. And he has a book out right now from his line of books called Halloween Head Comics. And the book is called Tricks and Treats. And it's an anthology of Halloween short stories featuring characters that are inspired by such books and authors as, oh my God, I just forgot. I just brain farted so hard on H.P. Lovecraft.
You were doing
like,
so good.
It was like the image of the fish man popped in my head, and all of a sudden my brain said Leviathan instead of Lovecraft, and I was like, I can't think of the writer's name. Inspired from everything from H.P. Lovecraft to Bigfoot to all kinds of creepy tales. So the links are in the description for that. Check it out if you haven't backed it. There's only a couple hours left. And are you going to stay in demand?
I am, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
that's good because I'm trying to get something special together for you guys. We won't go into it too much here because I don't want to tease something that isn't going to happen. But I've been drawing this character a bit, and I'm trying to get something together. And if you're in demand, then I think we could do something cool with it.
Awesome.
But also I think everyone should at least stay in demand for a little bit, because there's the kind of like, oh yeah, that campaign was going on reminder that kind of goes around for people that wanted to back it or were curious.
Right.
Obviously we still like to do the push. Like if you are going to back it, like try to back it before the campaign is done. Like back it before it's in demand. Get those numbers up so it looks as good as it can before it's in demand. So Ben here is joined by his brother Justin and a couple other creators, and I highly recommend this project. Take a look at it tonight, and stay tuned and stay posted with us, because like I said, I've got some, we'll call it fan art for now. I got a fan art piece I'm going to be working on besides this ink along. Now this ink along, I am going to do something with this. I am going to drop this into Procreate and create a corner box, a Marvel style corner box with it.
Oh, so nice. That is cool.
It's one of my favorite tropes of old school comics is the corner box. And not that I'm original with the idea or anything, but I just like when I do headshots or simple pieces like that, there's just something about doing them in that style that I really like. And then once you throw the box around it, it feels good to me. It feels official. It feels cool.
Yeah.
Ty Ranger is offering that he'd be down to do some pencils for a backup if they are good enough, Ben. I'm sure Ben's always open to looking at people's samples. So, or not. That could be. I don't want to put that words into your mouth like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, shoot me a DM. Show me what you got.
Silvar Ogre, hee, in quotes, he says, "Is that a Michael Jackson moment?" Yes. Yes, it is. Shaman. Let's see. What are people whining at Pedrino about? Oh, I see. You could say Ben is flattered to be your flatter. And then he defends himself with, yes, I can make dad jokes too. SDA doesn't like it. Simon and Sevens, dang Pedrino, why? You're too young. Save yourself. Oh, and that's where the he came from. Okay, Pedrino then said he. And, Silvar took it as a he. It's kind of fun to do. Shaman.
You do that so well. Do you practice?
No, never. No, I don't. I don't watch Captain EO every night before bed. Ty says, will do, and thanks for the opportunity to try out. Ross Wolf says, when I was a kid, dad jokes were just called jokes. Damn, that's about as good a dad joke as we're going to get. Damn, I think that's a good spot to close the show. We've gone for an hour and 20 minutes over what we were gonna do.
Yeah.
Ben, I feel like you, for the most part, completed your piece.
Yeah. I'll do this at some other time. I do need to get
All
to
right.
bed soon.
No problem. We will let you go. We'll get back into that next time. I'm gonna sign off from this camera really quick and hop over to my other one. Hold on one sec, guys.
All right. Can you hear me, Ben?
Yes, sir.
All right. This didn't turn out so bad with my switching camera setup. Not as professional as Rob, but we made it. We made it happen. Last chance. Anyone got any questions for our man Ben before he goes? Question here from me before you go, Ryan Wynn. How do you age your ink? Literally leave the cap. Let's see. My ink jar is jammed in here. I can't get it out. Literally leave the cap loose. Unscrewed but on, and it'll evaporate for a couple days. I leave it for days at a time, and if I need to add a little water, a little ink to it, I do. But that's how I do it. And Pedrino clarifying that it was meant as a Michael Jackson he. So, all right, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you haven't backed Halloween Head Comics presents Tricks and Treats by Ben Soto, go ahead and do that tonight. It will be in demand, but we'd love to see it get as much as it can tonight. And I think that's it. So until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I think you guys know the rest. Take it easy.
Give us any chance we'll take.